So, hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Socrates Cafe podcast. The first podcast that went out was just pretty much a bit of a, I don't know, I guess pilot, if you will, just to see how it would go and see if it was interesting enough to put up online. So, this is episode number two. Um, if it goes up, it's officially episode number two, and the reason for this one is I wanted to get into more deeper ideas of philosophy. Now, Socrates, of course, everybody knows, was the father of Western philosophy and introduced the dialectic method. Now, one of the things that I find quite interesting about the dialectic method is you're having to use dialogue to get across what you mean and for the other person to then understand what you mean, and then for you to both come to some sort of understanding where something can be then laid out for the future. And one of those areas that I'm really interested in when it comes to philosophies would be sports. So I've got my friend Gavin on here with us. I used to work with him. We're both very interested in sports, football being the main one that we both share, and the other one is darts, which I'm not so much into, but Gavin knows a lot more about darts than I do. So you're going to hear a bit about football and a bit about darts. So for any American people, we're not talking American football. I know there are certain philosophies and plays that people have in American football, but it's in that game, there's a lot of stopping and starting, so it's a bit different to the philosophies and styles in what you would call soccer, where it's just a constant free flowing game. So we're going to start talking about football or soccer, and the first thing I just want to kind of bring up before we ask or give the floor to Gav to have a Gav or Gavin, which if he prefers. I'm pretty sure he prefers Gav, but uh,
Yep.
I'm gonna I'm gonna put out a couple of ideas and then just see what Gav has to say on these. So for me, one of the things that I thought was very when we talk about philosophy is about, especially when you're talking about the dialectic method, is you're talking about using words to describe a situation and use logic and reason to come up with an idea which will work. And this is where it brings into the philosophy of football, because football was evolved, of course, from way back in the day when it first started. Like players would just, as soon as they got the ball, they would just run at the defence, and they would try and hold on to the ball as much as possible. If you got the ball, you wanted to hold on to it and be the main man with the ball and do something special. But nowadays, football's changed a lot, and it's all about it's definitely you can see more that it's a team game in the modern game because the ball's constantly moving, not with one player, it's moving around the pitch with other players. So one of the periods I just kind of want to bring up for me that I felt there was a big shift in football was during the time of Pep Guardiola's reign at Barcelona, and also which went sort of in line, kind of just after that, around about the same time, went alongside Spain's run, winning the European trophy, and then winning the World Cup, and then winning the European trophy again, which I don't think had been seen or been done before, winning your continental one and the World Cup in between, and then retaining your continental one. Now, what I noticed, and everybody noticed at the time, that they seemed to be unbeatable because they played this new style of football that people weren't playing, and it was this what we call tiki taka, which was a lot of passing the ball, not necessarily going for the goal. You were just passing the ball and moving it around and wait until you see those right openings, and that's when you make your move. But if you don't see them, don't take the risk. Just keep possession of the ball, hold on to it, and then at that moment make the risk. And of course, ever since then, that style has been broken down, and people have been able to figure out ways to play against it. But then it brings up this whole new idea of every manager, I guess, in charge of a team, just like in American football, every coach will have his playbook, and every manager will have in football will have their philosophy of how they want to play and how they want to convey that onto players. So What do you think of the world of football today compared to how it used to be, and what do you think of this new kind of style of play where it is all, philosophical? I guess you're trying to get your idea of how you want to play to the players by speaking to them, but not through direct experience because you're no longer a player on the pitch who can talk to them on the pitch like the captain of the team would who's playing alongside. You can only shout things from
Yep.
the touchline, so you've got to get a message across to them at before the game starts or when you have the halftime 15 minutes to get that message across of how you think you want things to change. So how do you think that that's kind of evolved over the years, I guess, from back when football was a very different game to what it is today. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think a lot of it just comes from, well, as you just touched on, sometimes when you're no longer a player, then you can't really speak to them in the same way. You need to convey your messages before the match or during the match. But I think the standard that you played at and the people that you learned from are a big factor in that. So people like Guardiola, like you said, played at a really decent level, really competitive level, and was a great player in his own right. So I think learning for the people that he learned from in his day was probably why you've seen the effects of how he could go onto a Barcelona team or even the team he's doing it with just now, Man City. I think that all comes from people he learned from, but obviously there's that aspect of him doing it himself as well. Obviously, each manager and philosophy is different, but going back to the tiki taka one that you mentioned, just it's about that high press and just like you said, retaining possession of the ball. A lot back in that time when Guardiola was in charge of Barcelona, they had a team mentally beat before they even went on the park.
Yeah,
So
that's a big factor, I guess.
you know what I mean. So it's just retaining that possession, tiring the opposition out. When a team is running and chasing after the ball for 50, 60 minutes of a match, then the gaps are going to open and you're going to
Exactly.
get the spaces, you know what I mean? So I think that was just key. And as I said, the people he learned it from in his day is probably why he went on to do what he done. Obviously, he made it a wee bit better because his teams have been full of superstars as well. Messi at Barca, all the Man City teams. So that makes things a lot easier.
Yeah,
But yeah, just I think that that play just changed football, like you said. And I think everybody tries to copy it. Some teams can do it. Teams with less so players maybe can't achieve it, but it's just about that. Like you say, high pressure, retaining possession of the ball, making people chase after you, and then the more chasing they do, they'll tire out and they'll find more gaps and spaces as the game goes on and stuff. And
and
Guardiola's teams were amazing at
I
that.
guess one of the things
They would
about it, I
just keep
guess, is
possession until you're knackered.
that I was thinking there is this belief that you're going to win. You don't need to be frantically trying to get that goal because as you're passing it around, and like you say, 50 minutes might go by and you've not scored, but you've held on to the ball, and the other teams have been running
Right.
around and they've been expelling energy. So you know that chance is going to come, and even if it gets a bit further on, like the 60th minute, 70th minute, you're running it. Fans watching it, like we call it in Scotland. If say we're watching our team, Rangers, and they've not scored by the 80th minute, we call it squeaky bum time. when
Yeah.
the
No,
nerves
quite right.
start going, and you're like, oh no, what's happened? But
Which can happen quite a lot,
yeah, it
to be
definitely
fair.
does. But the thing is like there was this belief in the team, and I guess a belief in the philosophy, the idea that had been drilled into their heads by not Clement, sorry, Pep Guardiola, and he'd instilled this in them that it doesn't matter what minute you're at, as long as you keep playing to this same, you don't frantically panic and change and just frantically go for a goal when the time goes on. Just keep playing to
No.
the way that I've said that I want you to play, and those gaps will open up eventually, and you'll find the spaces, and eventually that opening will come. And then once that opening comes, then you'll maybe find two, three, four openings, and then
That's
the
exactly
game
it,
could be killed
Andy.
off in
Yep.
20 minutes when nothing's happened, or what seems to the
No.
naked eye, somebody who doesn't understand football, to the naked
Hmm.
eye, it would seem like nothing's happening. This is a boring game, The ball's just been kicked in, it's been kicked about for 70 minutes and nothing's happened. And then after that 70th minute, then maybe Barcelona would then go on to score 4. And you're like, well, wow.
Aye.
Now, why? How did that happen? It happened because of a strict idea that he instilled inside to these players' heads to not diverge, not go away from it, just stick with what he said and trust in what he said. He has an idea in his head, and if you carry it out, how he's instructed you to do it, using dialogue and understanding of the game, then it will work, and it has proved that it's worked. You know, every team
and it
that
did.
Pep's
Well, how
been at,
many
he's been
trophies did?
successful, hasn't he?
Yeah. That's what I mean. How many trophies did his teams pick up? And that's just with a desire to win. Like, as I said, back then, Barcelona had everybody beat before they stepped onto the park. Teams were maybe finding out they had Barcelona's on next fixture next weekend, and they were going, "Oh, really? We don't really stand much of a chance there." You know what I mean? So I don't think many teams back in that era, Guardiola, Messi, and Barca at that time, when they drew Barca, they had Barca that weekend, thought, you know what, we're coming away with a point or 3 points here. I think more often than not, it was, let's try and keep ourselves in the game, don't make it damage limitation, and don't make it embarrassing. If we can get away with a 1-0, 2-0 defeat, then to the mighty Barcelona, that's okay. You know what I mean? So that's the way it was back then. Apart from maybe Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid and stuff, but all the smaller teams couldn't cope with that philosophy back then because, like you say, the mental breakdown of it, the dialogue you need to get across. Put it this way, you made a good point there. See if they practice that all week in training, and then they were to deviate from that in the game, then what is the actual point in practicing it in training if you're just going to make your own decisions? So I think the hunger to stick with it, desire to stick with it, is why they were so successful. And I think when you've got a manager who knows what he's talking about, you better listen. You know what I mean? So,
well, that's it. It's the belief it has to become a synergy, if you will. There has to be the manager has to believe in what he's saying and his ideas and how they want to play, and the players have to also buy into what the manager's saying as well. And if they really do, and they put it out in the park and it doesn't work, then it was a failure. But if they put it out, they go out there and they believe in the manager's ideas and they try it and it does work and it's a success, then you know that there's something going on there. There's a synergy between the players and the manager, and the manager's ideas essentially starting in his head and then being expressed on the pitch without him actually being on the pitch. And that's some sort of, like, that's a connection, I guess, that football managers want to have with their players, and it's a rare thing because not all players, every player has a personality. Every player is just a person, just like every manager is just a person.
Quite right.
You really need this sort of synergy between the whole team, not just individuals thinking about themselves and that to really make something like that work. And it's been quite fascinating how he's been able to do that essentially at every club that he's been at. Now, one of the things that I also wanted to talk about with you was another sport that I know that you're a lot more passionate about. You've got a lot more knowledge on it than me, so this is more of the kind of time for you to take the floor and enlighten me and anybody that's maybe watching this. And it's about darts.
Yep.
So for anybody who doesn't play darts, of course they'll know the basics of a dartboard and there being a score, and you have to try and get your score down to 0. When you get to the final number, there's the rules that you have to hit a double on the last if you've got 32 left, then you have to hit a double 16. You can't just hit 32. It's got to be done that way. But what people, I guess, won't think of about darts when throwing a darts, when just picking up one for the first time, is that it's very similar to like a bow, like an arrow leaving a bow. Because you've got the back of the dart, you've got like the little kind of plastic or feather, whatever tail feathers that you'd want to put in, which would just be similar to like an arrow in a bow. And then what that does is that creates a spin through the air. So when when an arrow leaves a bow, it goes straight because the feathers keep it spinning, which keep it going straight and going off to another angle. And it's the same with darts. So there's a technique, because when you release it from the bowstring, it must be going at some pace that automatically the tail feathers pick up the the friction in the air which caused it to spin. Now,
Yep.
and a dartboards are a lot closer to the board, so when you're throwing a dart, there must be. And I've figured out a couple of ways, but I mean, I'm very novice when it comes to playing darts. But when you throw it, for you, what is it? How is it you get that initial spin into the dart to make sure that it flows, it flies in a straight way, or the way that you want, where you want it to go? How is it
Yeah.
how would you move your fingers and like exactly if you can demonstrate?
In all honesty, I could maybe I'll attempt to demonstrate a wee bit for you in a wee second, but everybody's different when it comes to throwing a dart. So if you've ever watched darts the way I do, so not only do I play darts, but I watch darts quite a lot and different tournaments, and I follow different darts players. And when you watch it, no two people's throw are the same. Everyone has a independent their own throw. You know, there's not a way to throw darts. There's different ways, and it's all what you're comfortable
There's
with.
not the
It's
way,
just
there's your way.
yeah, exactly. There's your way, and if you're comfortable with it and it feels right, it seems right, then that's the one you should stick with. And to be fair, just practice. They do say practice makes perfect. In darts,
Yeah.
that is more truer than any other sports. Practice does really get you there in darts. You need to be fluent. You need to be repetition. You need to be doing the same. Once you find that comfortable throw, you need to be sticking with it. And a bit like you said about the philosophy with football. They need to stick with the philosophy for football for it to work. You do need to stick with the same throw. Once you find your comfort zone,
Yeah.
you need to stick with the same throw. So
I guess as soon as you try to alter that, you're going to mess things up because you've already
yeah,
got
because
into
it's like
a sort of
practicing a
flow.
full new throw again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like practicing a full new throw again. If you tinker or change your throw, then you're then having to get used to a different way of throwing, which means the effect isn't going to be the same. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, several ways that I like to throw a dart. I'm just trying to refine my comfort place because a few years ago when I played it quite a lot, I had a certain throw that was working well, but after years of not playing it, I'm trying to refine what that throw is.
Yeah.
I really don't. I can't remember what one it was, so I'm sort of right now. I'm at a stage where I'm throwing it all different ways. Like I'm throwing the dart like with full handed with all the fingers on it, and throwing it like that, and then up the way, and try to like dip down onto the dartboard. There's the one that you sort of mentioned with it, like throwing it like that and the spin.
Yeah, that's the one I do. I would usually do it with two fingers, and I would kind of
Yeah,
spin it as I released it. I would like kind of spin it as I let go of it, and then it would create the
yeah.
spin. But I know I'm not very good at it. I'm
See,
not.
spinning
I can
does
maybe
work
hit
for
a
some
20,
people
but I
because
can't hit a
you
treble
can.
20. I'm not. If I do hit a treble 20,
Yeah,
it's just purely by luck.
yeah, no, it is really hard to hit. As I said, you need to be practicing quite a lot. Back when I was getting good at darts, I was playing darts maybe.
So we had our first kind of technical difficulty there. This is about, I guess, it's all about getting used to podcasting software and how it works. Video dropped out, so we've connected up again, and we just want to pick up from where we left off. So we're talking about certain throws in darts, and I'd mentioned about I used that when I let go. I used the two fingers, and I'd use it to spin it and let it go, but I'd never be able to. I'd maybe be able to get it in the area of where I was aiming at, like the 20, but I would never be able to get it specifically on like a treble 20, which is obviously difficult to do. It's
Yeah,
the hardest. That and the bullseye are probably the hardest on the board to try and hit.
yeah,
I mean, any really treble is quite a hard place to hit, really. But
yeah,
yeah. So if you want to just tell us more about your throws and throws that you've seen, throws that you've
yeah,
watched throughout the years, certain players maybe who from the past did it a
yeah.
certain way, and maybe how we've seen new players come in with new styles that just completely wipe out the old styles of doing it, and
Yeah.
or whether that
I
is
mean,
just
most of them,
because one thing I guess just before you go into it is one thing I guess for me is I always found that things like the darts and pool and snooker, they're the sort of games that really, as you age, you're not going to get any worse. The only thing that's stopping you from being good is something inside here, because you really can adapt. Like you can't adapt playing football because football's you need a certain level of fitness. You know, there's certain
yeah,
attributes you need to meet to play against these other young players. But when it comes to
yeah,
darts and snooker, it's a game where it's more about the knowledge of it, the technique, um, and that's one of those ones. So I do find it kind of because I've always watched snooker, and the only one that stands out who's kind of shown that's a lot different has been Ronnie O'Sullivan, because
yeah,
he's we had like Stephen Davis, who was a six-time champion and the big star in like the 80s, and then the 90s came about. Stephen Hendry came about, and he was winning everything, and then he kind of
yeah.
fell off. But then Ronnie O'Sullivan throughout it all was just kind of continuously went on throughout his whole career, and won I think he was at the last World Championship. He just won there to overtake Stephen Hendry's 7 World Championships to 8. But yet there's not a huge like age gap between these people. So there must be something that's just in there. Something
Yeah.
must maybe go, whether it's confidence or what it is. I just
Yeah.
wonder what you thought about that in darts as well, with the kind of different styles and different ways that people play. Like, what do you think it is
I
that
mean,
makes them lose
darts
that?
is quite hard because, as I said, there's different maybe thoughts and opinions on darts, but it really is all which suits you. I've watched so many like over 100 darts players and over 100 darts throws that I could probably name you each
Uh-huh.
person, and you would see if you were to ever see me like do 100 darts players demonstration or something like that. You would find out that I wouldn't be doing the same thing repeatedly. You know what I mean? They would all be different. Most of them are all different because there's different stances. Some people can
Hmm.
stand with a front foot to the side, or their front foot with a toe touching the hockey, or slightly slanted. So the darts players themselves just get comfortable with what suits them and how they can play darts. For me, I don't particularly like standing with my foot of the hockey on the side because it's a bit awkward for my foot, and I get a sore back and I get a sore leg for standing that way. So my way of doing it is toe pointing towards the hockey, so toe touching the hockey.
Another wee technical difficulty there, but we left off there. You were talking about the hockey, and I said so. That's for people who don't know darts. That's the line that you can't step across when you're throwing the dart. So
Correct,
some
yeah.
people, I mean, so I guess that would say that since everybody has their own style, there may be somebody who prefers to throw a dart faster and may want to, their preferred style might be actually to maybe stand a foot maybe behind the hockey
You
because their
can,
style is
well, I
throwing
think,
it.
I don't know,
You
if
may,
in professional darts, I think yet some part of the foot, the leading foot, needs to be touching the the wooden bit like the hockey that they
all
put
right,
down.
okay, so that's within the rules.
I think in the rules, some part of your foot, as I said, some professionals or some people I watch do it with their foot sideways, which
Hmm.
for me isn't the preferred option because it hurts my foot when I do it that way. For me, I just like to stand straight, facing on, with my toe touching the wooden hockey part, and
Uh-huh.
then that for me is a straighter posture, and that's how I like to throw my darts. People that do it side on, they're more, if they've got like if they see, if you bend down, some darts players will bend down and get their head
Uh,
forward and they'll look into the dartboard. People that do that usually
and they kind of
throw
kind of lean over the line
lean over. Yeah,
as long as their foot's
that's
behind
people.
it.
Yeah, usually people like that will do it side on. But me, I'm my posture's straight, and I'm like step back a bit and my toes against the hockey, and I like to throw for that angle because again, it's all about what suits you in darts. It's just
Yeah.
about what you feel comfortable. Put it this way: the best way to put it is if you're throwing darts and you're not comfortable with your posture, you're going to really hurt yourself in the long run.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because the more you do it, and if more like it might be working for you, but if it's hurting you and it's causing you back problems or causing you issues, then
you'll not be
it
playing
might be
darts for
working
long.
for you, but it's not working for you in the same way because it's hurting you, it's causing
You
you
just won't be
problems. So
playing
you
for
really
long.
need to find
You
a
know what I mean?
way that works for your body, but also that you can adapt. You can adapt to a new way which doesn't hurt your body. Is you can keep your
Yeah,
body in the right posture because everybody's body is different. Everybody's muscular, muscular, muscular strains will be different, and everybody will
yeah.
have different ways and how they want to have a stance or how they want to stand, feel comfortable, and they have to find their own style playing the darts that way. So I guess, see, one of the things I guess I was thinking about just when talking about football and then talking about darts is how there wouldn't really necessarily everybody, I guess, individually, because darts is an individual game, is everybody will
Yep,
have their own individual philosophy on how they do it.
yep,
But then when you think about it more from a team game like football, where a manager
yep.
has to get his ideas in his head across to the players for them to
Yeah.
understand it and then have that play
It is
out on the pitch
different.
for 90
It,
minutes, it
it
is
is
very
different in
different
major
because I'd say
ways.
the darts is more, say, an experience thing. Whereas
Hmm.
the football thing, as well as being an experience thing, it's something that you also have to listen to the coach. Whereas a darts coach, you can say, no, that doesn't work for me because I'm in a pain when I'm doing that. So we need to find a new way that's going to work for me. And whereas
I think,
football, the football player goes, oh, I don't like playing out on the right. It doesn't work for me. But the manager
yeah,
may see other ways and how that could work. A player playing out on the right because they can change maybe where they're playing. They can start out on the right and then as another player maybe takes what we call the overlap or the underlap and comes
yeah.
from behind and takes the ball, then that player out on the right can come inside. So there's a lot of different variations, but whereas in darts it's more just your own personal experience and how to come up with a philosophy on how to play. And
I
that's what
think
makes
it's
it.
just easier to convey a message to one person than it is to 11 people on a park. So, in terms of philosophy, if like a one-on-one darts coach with it, because it's a singular sport, it's a lot easier to communicate and convey a philosophy or a certain message to one person as opposed to conveying a message to 11 people all at once who all have different positions. On a dart socket, you play at the arcade, you're thrown at a dartboard, you're in that position for the entire match.
Yeah,
In a football field, you're not in any one position for the
no,
entire match. You're running up and
you have
down,
to
you're
constantly
left,
adapt,
right, you're
constantly
yeah,
adapt.
exactly. So I think giving a message to 11 people is philosophy is far harder than it would be to convey a message to a single person doing a sport. However, obviously the repetition and the level of skill you need to acquire to play darts is where I take the interest in it. See, just that every day, as I was saying before, my first technical difficulty today, when I was playing darts at my best, I was 3 or 4 hours a day. As I said, on the weekend, it would maybe be daytime, and if I was working Monday to Friday at night time, it would be when I would practice. But it was 3 or 4 hours a day, and that was about 2 years ago when I was playing it at my best. And if you play 3 or 4 hours a day, you do get you're repeating it a lot. Your repetition's right up there, and you do
Well, that's it. That's the
start
thing.
to get good.
Repetition
You
works and
know.
repetition works. You
Yeah,
just keep
that's
repeating it, and
exactly it.
eventually something clicks in.
Yeah, so it's second nature after that. You know.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I feel that. See, I play. I do. I don't play darts. I don't play pool, snooker. Occasionally, now and then, I'll maybe play five-a-sides if I can, or if I've managed to find a group of people that are going to play. But one of the
yeah,
things that I do, which you'll know about, because we know each other, is that I play drums.
yeah,
And one of the things with that is repetition works, and it's the same, I guess, with any instrument. Is that if you don't play it for a certain period of time, you're going to get rusty. So it's like in your head, you know what you can do, or you know what you've been able to do before. So you know what your body can do, but when you're actually trying to apply that on the drum kit and when you're not played
Yeah.
it in ages, you go to do something that your mind thinks, oh, I should be able to do fine, and you mess it up because you're rusty. And,
Well,
and,
I've
and
got
that's
a
what that
perfect example.
repetition works. Like you mentioned, of being practicing 4 hours a day is how you
Yeah.
stay, you keep off that rust, and you keep yourself in that fluid motion of being able to do it
I'm
where
glad
every
you
time
touched on
it
that.
always works.
I'm glad you touched on that about musical instruments because just on what you said there, I've got a perfect example of what you've just mentioned. I used to play guitar in primary school, so primary five, primary six, and primary seven, and into first year. So 4 years I played acoustic guitar. Um,
Right?
had a wee band in school and stuff like that I was in, and now 20 odd years. No, so it's no, not 20, 10, 15 years later, I couldn't tell you a single chord. So, so I
Well, like there is only well, fundamentally the base of it. There's not many. There's A, B, C, D, E, F,
yeah,
and G. And that's it.
that's what I mean. But
There's no
touching on
H chords. There's just different
but
variations of those 7 chords.
that's what I
Um,
mean. But touching on your example, because I've not played in long enough, I don't know how to play those basic chords.
yeah,
So that's what I'm saying to you. Touching back on what you said, because I've not played for a number of years, even though it's only A to E, I don't know them anymore. So,
yeah.
see if you were to give me an acoustic guitar and say play A, I would I would no longer
You wouldn't know,
know.
but see, the thing is, there will be some sort of muscle memory within there. So, like, if I said, "Oh, this is A," and you'll go, "Oh, I remember doing that," and then I
Yeah,
go,
that
"Oh,
would
this
come
one's
back.
C," you go, "I
That
remember
would
doing
come
that,"
back.
and then it's
Yeah,
a case of just kind of playing between them, and then you bring it back. And I guess it's similar to the darts.
but that
It's
would
like
just
you
be like
might have
repetition.
not played it for 6 months, and you're trying to get
Yeah.
back into this flow of playing it, and it's just about
Mhm.
starting slowly and the trial and errors and keep doing it. Like
Yeah.
somebody's not going to get good on guitar if they've not got the time to spend doing it, because a lot of it is just trial and error. It's playing something wrong, and then just slowing it down and then playing it slowly until you
Yeah.
can play it fast. And it'll
I mean,
be the
don't get me
same with
wrong. You're
darts.
quite
Is
right
you'll
in what
be
you're saying.
throwing your dart, and you'll keep doing it every time, and then you'll then be like, why is it not working? And then you'll realise, oh, hold on, if I just tweak it this way,
Mhm.
and then eventually you'll start getting into a rhythm or a groove. And then if
Yeah,
you
I
keep
mean,
that up, practicing daily, then it's gonna be more a constant.
that's what I mean. The guitar thing, you're quite right. I mean, if I was to get taught it again and do repetition, I would learn it pretty quickly. But it was
Mm.
just a nice point to make by you because it tied in with because I've not played it in years. Starting now, I wouldn't have a clue. Of course, if I get taught the chords and then within the first couple of days the memory started to kick back in, I would probably be able to give it a good bash. But as we sit here now, I don't really.
Yeah,
I'd
but
be afraid to pick up a guitar again at the moment, you know.
don't worry,
Make a
I'll get one in
mockery of
your hands
myself.
soon enough, and we'll see what level you're at, and we'll get you back up to speed.
I've got a
But
pretty
one of
good
the things
idea
I
what
guess
level I'm at.
to bring it back to philosophy is especially when you're talking about Socrates, which is where this podcast is going to be uh, published on, which is called Socrates Café. Now, Socrates was the father of Western philosophy, and it was through using the dialectic method, so through using dialogue. But I
Yep.
guess what we've touched on and found out here is there's ways of doing things through dialogue, but also ways that are just experiential. Now, one of the things I'd say is that you've got some sort of core fundamental learning of guitar within you, that if you picked up a
Yep.
guitar right now without anybody telling you anything, maybe after just playing with it for a day, some things might just come back to you. And that's more about the experience rather than somebody sitting there talking to you and telling you how to do something. You
Yeah.
might actually go, oh, hold on a second. Actually, no, I remember this chord now. Now that I put my fingers there, and I remember doing this. And then the experiences come back, just like in the same way throwing a dart and that technique would come back to you. So I think there's a
Mhm.
mixture, certainly a mixture there of experience something and somebody talking you through something. And there's a
Yeah.
big difference there. There's a big gap, but it's also there's something there that connects the two.
Especially because darts, I'm self-taught anyway, so like that is a pretty good point to make because through that is purely experience. I've
Hmm.
never been taught how to play darts. I've just enjoyed what I've seen on the TV. Thought I'll pick up a set, give it a go, and then I really liked it. Took to it, got really good, but then because I didn't play for a number of years, I'm just starting to find myself again. So, like you
Yeah.
say, that is experience. But yeah, I mean, I played amateur football when I was younger, and my manager talking me through a game, where to be. I mean, I was always a right
A
winger
right
or a
winger
left
or a
winger
left winger
when I
when
was
it was
younger playing
an
amateur,
amateur.
and my manager on the touchline telling me my defensive duties, like, oh, there's your runner, or there's your man, or stick with him, or fall back, or whatever. So yeah, they are two totally different sports, but it's nice to point out the
Chug out
differences.
somebody on darts on the sidelines like a corner man in boxing shouting to you, "Oh no, no,
Exactly.
throw it this way, no,
Yeah,
go for this number, go for that." You don't get that. It's all a
you're
one
on your
man
own
thing.
up there. Yeah,
Whereas when you're, like I said, with boxing or something like that, then you've got people in there shouting, watching the fight from
yeah,
the other side, like the manager watching from the touchlines
yeah.
and
That's
shouting
it.
out instructions. But whereas in darts, it's a very different thing because it all comes from you. So
Once you're on the
it's
stage in
interesting,
darts, you're on alone. You're alone up there. No one's once you take the stage in dart, if you're beneficial to even make it pro, or if you have that luxury of making it pro, once you step on there, like you said, there's no coaches, so you need to remember what you do, practice each day for, and then just put the practice into, what I mean, your play. But football, we've got direction, Pep Guardiola's and people like that pointing you in the right direction. Same way, what was it you mentioned the other one there? The
We're talking about
what is
darts
it?
and
Yeah, that was the other one you're talking about. Oh, boxing. That's it.
aye, aye, when people
The
shouting from the
boxing, we've got
sidelines or when
people
you go for
shouting
the
you
30
instructions.
seconds after between rounds, aye.
But the darts, it's just pure feel. See what you do on a daily basis. When you're up on that stage, you just need to feel your way through it and plod on
Yeah,
and do what you do. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's different, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I tell you what, we'll wrap this up. The one thing I just kind of wanted to touch on a wee bit, just to kind of end things, was that when we and you spoke before deciding to record this, is that you were telling me about how you were not so long ago at a point where you were playing darts regularly enough where you thought that maybe you might have enough to enter down in the kind of lower areas of the kind of professional circuit and maybe do that.
Yeah.
Is that still something you want to do? And is that still something that if you can get time to play darts and just practice every day with that same intensity, is that something that you still want to maybe progress onto, as well as, of course, incorporating everything else into your life? But is that still something that you'd aim for?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, when me and you spoke the other day, and I think it was the exact same conversation actually, when we were touching on me thinking about going down to try and be a pro and make it in the lower circuits and start a career in it. I think in that same conversation, you rightly mentioned that there's not really a big age factor on the darts. So,
Aye.
I mean, I'm turning 30 in March, but as a footballer, you know what I mean, 30.
Aye, your
They do
career
say
would be almost done. You're
they
almost
do say that 30 is around about peak. But if you've not been playing and you're just starting at 30, then that's not so great. Whereas darts, you don't really have that. So we're only talking about 2 3 years ago when I was maybe 27, 28. I was thinking about it. So I would still give it a go. And if I ever find, or if I ever feel that I'm back to the level that I was at, then I might consider it again. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I tell you what, like I'm sure everybody will be interested in listening to this chat that we've had, and I'm sure as well you want to tell them your full name so people, any darts fans, can maybe keep their eyes out for you in the future years if you ever break it onto the circuit.
I think the full name will. I'll just give it Gavin just now because there's a good chance I might not make it, and if I do make it, then you'll see my name on TV
And you'll
anyway.
see,
So
well, you'll see your face, so they'll know who you are once your name
yeah,
pops up
you'll
in
get
the
the full
initial
name if it
credits.
does make it. If it does make it, you'll get the full name anyway.
Well, look, man, I
So
wish you all the best. I think it's something you enjoy, and the best thing to do in life is to find your vocation. That's something that philosophy that lies within me is that there's work, right, and there's two different types of work. Is that you get work, which is a job, which is just a piece of work that nobody really wants to do, and that's why somebody's willing to pay somebody else to do it. And then you
yeah,
get vocations, which is work that you enjoy doing. So it doesn't feel like a job, it doesn't feel like work because it's just something that you naturally want to do, you enjoy doing, and you'd be doing it anyway, regardless of whether you were making money or not. And if you
yeah,
happen to make money out of it, and you
it's
happen
a
to be able to
bonus.
make enough money to make a living out of it, then you've struck gold. You know, you've struck oil. That's
Yeah,
you've found your perfect place in life. So, well,
quite right.
I wish you all the best when it comes to the darts, and I wish you all the best just in life in general. I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you in the future.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it's been great. So, everybody, this has been Gav. He is one of my friends I've known for a long time. We, as I say, we spoke about everything that we have on the this podcast, but I think yeah, it's to think about philosophy in a different way because you have experiential, um, well, just these experiences in life which are only for you, and then you have objective things that happen in life which can be conveyed out on a football field or an American football field when there's certain plays put in place, but there's certain things when you're just in the moment and it all comes from you. And I think that it just opens up this door that it's not always just about what you see and how to logically break things down. Sometimes
Yep.
there's no logic necessarily behind it. It's just the experience and what works for individual people. So yeah, thanks again, Gav, for doing this with me. I really appreciate you taking out the time to do it, and I've had fun with the conversation. I hope you have too, and
Yeah,
we'll
certainly,
maybe
mate. It's been a pleasure, mate. Definitely, I've enjoyed it, mate. Hopefully, get another one in the future, like you say.
definitely. Right, we'll wrap things up here, and yeah, I'll see everybody kind of catch in for the next podcast, which I'm sure will drop soon. Anyway, everybody, goodbye.